Hey everyone, and welcome to the webinar today, how to grow your email list as a designer. So I've been getting some really great questions here in the Design Tribe, and one of them is how to grow your email list. And let me click on over to the next slide. So I have this post that's kind of our Ask Me Anything post, and under these posts you can literally ask me any questions that you have about growing your design business, about becoming a textile designer, really literally whatever questions that you have. And so Jennifer asks, what's been the hardest part about building your email list and your YouTube following? Any suggestions for tips and continued growth? And I love this question so much, but I'm going to divide it into two different videos because they really dive into kind of two different topics. And so today we're going to talk about building your email list, and then probably 2 Fridays from now, because of the holidays, we'll dive into how to grow on YouTube. So be sure to tune in for that. Okay, so the very first thing that you need to do when you're trying to grow your email list is you need to have a good opt-in freebie. Now, this can also be called a lead magnet or just an opt-in or a freebie, but essentially it is a really awesome kind of giveaway that you're giving to your audience. And it can be different kinds of things like a checklist, a guide. It can be really any kind of PDF. It's pretty safe to give away. You can also host a challenge. Ebooks used to be really popular. I feel like they are not as popular anymore, but if it makes sense for your niche and for your industry, then an ebook is a possibility. You can also have your own kind of free membership like I have here in the Design Tribe. You can offer a free training or a webinar or a workshop. So these are all really great opt-ins that you can have where you are giving away free information and free services in exchange for an email address. So the first thing that you want to ask is, who is my target audience? So I really do recommend creating a vision board, maybe of one specific person for whoever you are trying to serve. So like, who are you trying to serve with your design services? Keep your paid offer in mind if you are trying to, for example, sell passive income products like digital products or maybe a course. But if you are a freelance designer, then you want to just keep your services in mind. And the more you can niche down, the better. So step number 2 is to create a really fantastic landing page. So a landing page is essentially, here's an example of the one on my website. Landing pages can literally be just one page so that whoever lands on your website, they don't get distracted by your navigation bar or by your sidebar or whatever. The way I do it is that I have this kind of fill the screen when someone first clicks on my website, but then they can scroll down so they don't have to log into their email address just to see the rest of my website. But I do want it to fill the screen so that they aren't distracted and that it's very clear that I'm offering my free trend guide. And so all they have to do is plug in their name and email address, and they're going to get a copy of the trend guide after they share on social media. I do have kind of that extra step with this trend guide just because it is such an amazing trend guide this year, and I will probably actually charge for it next year. So this is probably the last year that I'm giving away the entire trend guide for free. But yeah, so that's a landing page. So step number 3, okay, you have your landing page built, but then you really need to be able to drive traffic to your website. If you're not getting traffic to your website and no one is seeing your landing page, you're not gonna have very many email signups, right? Okay, so there's a lot of different things when it comes to driving traffic to your website. And the first thing is to kind of be found in Google SEO, and SEO stands for search engine optimization. And so some just kind of basic things you can do to try to get found on Google is to have, amazing keywords. You want to do keyword research for this. Also, Google really rewards newness. So if, for example, if you did some research on a topic that was maybe 5 years old and you did a new, let's say, blog post or video on the same topic, then Google is going to bump your content up in the algorithm and just kind of see how it does. So it's gonna like kind of judge if your content is better than the 5-year-old piece of content. And if yours performs better, then Google is going to continue to promote it and bump it up in the algorithm. However, if people kind of read it and click off quickly, it means that probably your content isn't that good, or it could be a lot better. Maybe it's too short, maybe it's not relevant enough to what you had titled it for, and then maybe the 5-year-old piece of content is going to continue winning in the algorithm. So you need to think about all of that, but having newness is definitely going to help you kind of get seen in the very beginning. So you can also research Google Trends. Google Trends is an entire website, and you can kind of go deep into this, but it's going to kind of show you like what's rising in the trends. Like, so what are people actually searching for? What are some, trending topics? And it may or may not be relevant to what you're doing, but if you can find some relevant trends in Google Trends that relate to your customers and your industry and who you are as a designer, then that is definitely an amazing thing to be able to jump on. Google SEO also rewards quality and just going deep. And so, for example, it used to be, relatively easy to get found in a blog post like 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. However, Google is now rewarding more quality. And so if you're going to create a blog post, you want to make sure that it is a longer piece of content. You may even want to include a video. You want to include really nice images. Like, you just want to really excel and make sure that your content is literally the best piece of content, and then it is going to win over the long term. The great thing about Google SEO is that it's unlike the Instagram feed or something like that, where your post or your piece of content really only lives for about, 5 hours, and on Facebook maybe for a little bit longer than that. But on Google, it's a search engine, right? So if people are searching for a certain thing and you have the best piece of content, you are going to continue to show up. There are a few other ways that you can drive traffic to your website, because sometimes it can be hard to kind of figure out SEO and get found that way. So other ways you can promote your content is going to be, of course, on social media. Pinterest is one of the best ones to promote your content on, especially for blog posts, because it, a lot like Google, is a search-based platform. So unlike Instagram, like I just mentioned, your content and your pins are gonna live a lot longer on Pinterest, because people use Pinterest as a visual search engine. They're going on and trying to find things, whether it's recipes, or of course if you're a designer, maybe it's inspiration, maybe it's how to do something. So if you're creating, how to get started as a freelance designer, for example, and you pin that to Pinterest and they click through and it links back to your blog post or your website, then that is going to really help drive traffic to your website. People have had tons of success with Pinterest, and if I went into my Squarespace analytics right now, Pinterest would definitely be the #1 platform that's driving traffic to my website out of the social platforms altogether. Now, I list YouTube on there as #2 because YouTube is also a search-based platform. When people go on YouTube, they're not just like scrolling the feed, although they may do that a little bit on their homepage and kind of see what's new from who they're subscribed to and all of that. But people on YouTube are generally trying to find answers to their questions, right? So this week I've been kind of interested in learning how to vlog. And it's something that I've kind of taken an interest in. I got a new camera for Christmas this year, so I'm super, super excited. And I don't know if I'll be vlogging or not, but it's something that I was interested in this week. So what did I do? I went on YouTube and I searched, how to vlog, or, how to be a vlogger. And so it's not that I want to be a vlogger full time or that I want that to be my profession. However, I would love to work that into my marketing strategy on just being a designer and kind of showing everyone the behind the scenes of my studio and kind of like what I do every day. Right? So YouTube, again, is going to kind of give you the most bang for your buck, Pinterest and YouTube, because people are going into these sites and searching. So if you create a piece of content, it could literally continue to climb and climb and climb for up to 5 years, who knows, maybe even longer, but generally the newness does start to kind of outrank old pieces of content if you're not continuing to create new content. Okay, and then also Instagram and Facebook, right? Like, they don't have as long of a life. Your posts don't have as long of a life on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all of these, even LinkedIn. But there are a ton of people on Instagram and Facebook. So it's still good to be posting here, and you can also repurpose your content. So, if you're posting to Instagram, of course, you can have your link in your bio, and you just want to continue pointing people to that, right? Whether it is you're offering your freebie as your LinkedIn bio so that people are clicking over to your website and signing up for your freebie from Instagram. You just want to make that super easy for them. Same thing can happen on Facebook. I will say that on Facebook, it is better to put your links in the comment section, because the Facebook algorithm wants to keep people on the platform longer, right? And that's going to be true of really any social media platform. They want to win. They want to beat the other social platforms. And so if you are keeping people on their site longer, then they're going to reward that. But if you're giving external links in your post to a YouTube video or to a blog post or whatever it is, then Facebook doesn't really like that, because they don't want people to click off of their platform, right? So that's just a little tip on if you're posting to Facebook. And I don't know, Facebook business pages, I think only like 5% of your audience see those. And so it's going to be a little bit lower on the list of priorities, like if you were to only focus on one. Lately, I don't know, my Instagram followers have been increasing, but my engagement has been way, way down. So I don't know what's going on with Instagram right now, but I feel like it is harder and harder to be seen on that platform. I would say if you're going to, I still try to post, 5 times a week on Instagram, so I'm not saying don't do it. However, I don't know, there may be more bang for your buck in stories or going live on Instagram, maybe posting IGTV videos. And again, in IGTV videos, you can link back to your website. So you always want to be, in every piece of content that you're creating, pointing people back to your website and your opt-in freebie so that they sign up for your email list, right? LinkedIn is a really great platform right now. I've actually just got people asking me for freelance work because I just started posting some of my design work to LinkedIn. So I don't think it's as crowded of a platform. I don't think as many people are, a lot of people are on LinkedIn, but not as many people post regularly to LinkedIn. So it's a little bit easier to kind of win on LinkedIn. And then when someone likes your post or comments your post, it shows up in the newsfeed again. So that's what's really awesome about LinkedIn. And on top of that, if you're wanting to get clients, then where do you think your buyers or your clients are going to be? Like, a lot of times they are going to be on LinkedIn, and they are professionals. So it's a really great place to promote yourself. So we don't always think about it right up front, but it's one that I am going to be focusing on more in 2020. And also your email signature, right? So if you include in your email a signature, you can just, of course, have it pre-made, whether you're using Gmail or whatever, and provide a link in your Gmail signature or your email signature back to your freebie offer, right? So if I'm offering my free 2020 trend guide, I'm gonna have a link to that in my email signature so that literally every time I email someone, they may or may not be interested in it, but it's there for them to easily see and click on, and they might just say, huh, that's interesting, like I wonder what this is, and they might go click over to my website and sign up for my email list if it is relevant to them. And the last one is direct message. So this is definitely going to be harder to scale in the long term, but if you are really small and just starting out and there is no traffic coming to your website, then I highly recommend that you go through whoever you're connected to, whether it's people's email addresses that you have already, if like in your Gmail or whatever, people that you're connected to on Etsy, Creative Market, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, like if you feel like you have sort of started to develop a community there, then you can literally just direct message people and say, hey, like I'm giving away this freebie, like would you be interested in it? And so if you're really struggling to drive traffic to your website, then this does take some time, but you can kind of copy and paste a generic little message and DM people, but I would recommend including their name just so that they know that it's not like a bot emailing them, like you are a real person that's emailing them, or direct messaging them, I should say. So that's another good one. If you literally have nobody on your email list and you have no traffic to your website, just start direct messaging people. People are generally like pretty responsive to that. Okay, so tip number 4 is, of course, to create content. So it's going to be hard for people to find your opt-in freebie on their own if you're not creating content, right? Like you can direct message them like I just said before, but otherwise you need to be showing up in their feed and in their kind of search queries, right? So if you're creating content, it can be in the form of 3 different types. It can be the written word, it can be audio, or it can be video. And we're gonna dive into each one of these. So the written word can be something like blog posts or articles, depending again on kind of who you're targeting and what type of designer you want to be. Like, do you want to teach? Do you want to, are you more in academia or whatever? But you know, if it makes sense for you to be posting like articles on Medium, or for being a guest blog on different magazines or websites, or, you know, really popular blogs, you could do that. You can also, of course, create your own blog posts on your own website. And if you're going to be doing that, then I do, of course, highly recommend doing your keyword research beforehand, making sure that your blog posts are going to be showing up in Google's SEO, and that you want to promote those blog posts on, you know, social media sites, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, in your Instagram stories, on Pinterest especially, that kind of thing. Now, the second one is going to be audio. And audio is a very interesting medium because unlike video, so I would say that, okay, going into 2020, you of course have to say, okay, what is the best medium for my personality? Like, am I going to be better at writing blog posts? Do I really enjoy that? Am I going to have energy around that and be like, yeah, I'm cranking it out? Or are you going to be, you know, more inspired to do audio where you're like, okay, like especially for women, like sometimes we don't always want to do like our hair and makeup. So like if you're just doing audio, like you don't have to do that. And so you can just get on and talk. And so if you're extroverted, or even if you're not extroverted, but you just love teaching, you can, you know, get on a podcast, you can interview people so that you don't actually have to talk that much. You could be the one asking questions. But audio is extremely interesting, and audio and video are going to continue to grow. So if you're not really sure which one to go with and you aren't terrified of doing audio or video, then I do highly recommend doing audio, video, or even maybe both. Okay, but let's dive into audio for a second. So audio allows you to really go deep with your customer. And you get, I mean, when people put on a podcast, they are really committed to spending about an hour with you, which is pretty amazing if you think about it. Whereas if people are watching videos, whether it's on Instagram stories or whether it's on YouTube, they're gonna be kind of like ADD, right? They're not gonna have a great attention span. They're gonna be like clicking, swiping. Oh, that's not interesting, that's boring, blah, blah, blah. They're not as committed, and it's definitely like a shorter attention span, a shorter piece of content. And so, you know, you can kind of choose which one you want to be on. However, if you decide to do both, what's really awesome about video is that you can then extract the audio and upload it as a podcast episode. So it might not be possible to do that for every single piece of content that you're doing, but like for this example, for how to grow your email list, I'm totally gonna extract this audio and upload it to my podcast because it's easy for people to listen to. So step number 5 is, of course, to promote your content. Okay, so I want to get into this little diagram. So if you are listening on the podcast right now, be sure to click over to the YouTube video if you want to see these slides, because there's a really cool diagram. So you start out with your piece of content, which is going to be one of these 3 forms that we just talked about. It's either going to be video, audio, or a written blog post. So if you're doing video, there's so many things and so many ways that you can repurpose video, right? So you start out with your video. From your video, you can after that, you can create a blog post, and you can literally embed your video into the blog post so that when someone clicks over from Pinterest or finds your blog post in Google SEO, they're gonna see your blog post and they're gonna, you know, if it's just the written word, what are most people gonna do? They're probably just gonna kind of scan it and skim it, right? But if you have a video embedded into your blog post, then they're a lot more likely to maybe click on that video, hear you talk, see your face, get to know you. You get to go on a deeper level when you have video. So it's not that you can't do blog posts, but I mean, if you are doing video, you can create a blog post from that, embed the video in the blog post, and You can also then pin one of your images onto Pinterest so that people are going to be finding you in a multitude of different ways. You can also pin these images on Instagram stories, things like that. And so video just has this ability to really be repurposed in a lot of different ways, which is super awesome. And not to mention, Google SEO is going to bump up your blog post if they see that a video is in it, because that is going to be considered higher quality than a blog post that maybe doesn't have a video in it, right? So from there, like I just mentioned, you can then extract the audio from your video and use it on a podcast episode. From there, you want to promote your content on, of course, all the social platforms. It's going to be Instagram, the feed, Instagram stories. You may even be able to repurpose your video for IGTV. That's another way to just really get the most bang for your buck. Of course, you can also upload the video to your Facebook business page. If you ever plan on running Facebook ads, this is going to be a way this is going to be something that really, really helps you in the future. If you are using Facebook Pixel and all of these things, video is definitely going to be important there. So tip number 6 is, of course, to email your list. So a lot of us, when we're first starting out, we don't really know, okay, I have 3 people on my email list, like how many do I need to start emailing them? And the answer is, if you have 1 person on your email list, like go ahead and start sending emails. And the diagram ends up kind of looking like this. Okay, so let's dive in a little bit before I jump into this diagram into why email is so great, okay? Because with email, as opposed to social media platforms where, number 1, you don't own it, so the algorithm can change at any minute and take away your visibility, like I'm kind of experiencing with Instagram right now. I don't know if you guys are experiencing that as well, but for me, it's been a little bit frustrating because I do put a lot of hard work into that. But this is why email is great, because with email, it's going to be in chronological order. People check their email every single day, usually in the morning, first thing. And so if they're interested in your content, like you're not going to miss them. And emails have an open rate of generally 20 to 30%, depending on how big your email list is. Whereas on Facebook, 5% of people even see your content. And the conversion rate is even lower. I believe the conversion rate for email is around 4 to 5%, maybe a little bit lower than 5%. So that's a pretty good conversion rate, because when you compare it to social media's conversion rate is 0.14 something. So it's less than 1%. So it is still important, I think, to promote on social media so that people even know about, your opt-in in the first place. It's just another place for people to find you. However, email, of course, is going to be the best. And so when you create a new piece of content, so diving back into this diagram, when you create a new piece of content, it's important to get eyeballs on that content, right? So you'll see this kind of content in the middle, and there's kind of this circular arrow, meaning that it's starting to kind of rev up this engine. And email helps do that. So if more people are clicking on your content and engaging with your content and responding to it and liking it and leaving comments, then that's going to tell the algorithm on whatever social platform it is that this is a good piece of content. And so emailing your list when you have something valuable to add and something to kind of give them or tell them, whether it's a new freebie or whether you just have some good information for them or whether you just kind of want to give an update on where you're at, that's all valuable for anyone who's signing up for your email list, okay? And so in order to kind of rev up your new pieces of content, you want to email your list and say, hey, go check out my new blog post, my new video, my new podcast episode. Of course, you don't want to bug people, but I think that it's okay to email your list at least once a week. And if you feel like that's too much, then at least every other week. I really wouldn't go longer than that if you can. And I know it's kind of hard to get into a rhythm at first, but just try, just try to create a rhythm for yourself in a sequence where you create a new piece of content. That piece of content also becomes an email that you're emailing. You might want to reword things a little bit, of course, to make it sound like an email and like you're talking to people. But that can be a new piece of content as well. And then that's where you really start to see the growth. So that really starts to rev the engine and tell Google SEO, this is a good piece of content. Google's gonna bump it up. Pinterest, more people are clicking on it, more people are saving it. That's gonna bump it up in Pinterest. On YouTube, it's going to crank up the YouTube algorithm when more people are seeing it and engaging with it and liking it. And so having your email list, it's kind of a back and forth game, which is why you see kind of these two arrows that go from your email list to your content piece, right? Because you need your content to get people on your email list, but once you have people on your email list, you want to use every person that you can and point them back to your new content so that it continues to rev up the algorithm and get more eyeballs on it. So what are some email marketing platforms that you can be on? Well, I highly recommend MailerLite because it is free when you're starting out. I think it's free up to your first 1,000 email subscribers. And it is an awesome web email marketing host because they allow you to group all of your email subscribers and also segment them. And so a lot of people recommend ConvertKit, but ConvertKit, I've never used it, so I can't say that it's bad. However, it is extremely expensive, and that's just one more thing that I don't want to have to pay for as a small business owner. Especially when you're starting out, businesses tend to cost money rather than to create money unless you are working with one-on-one clients. But if you're trying to create more passive income products like I'm trying to do, or if you're getting into licensing, it does take a while to get that revenue going. And so if I can cut costs, I'm going to. So I really do recommend MailerLite. MailChimp is another one that a lot of people like to start out on. However, I've used both of these and I do like MailerLite better than MailChimp. Love you, MailChimp. I do feel kind of loyal to them from them being based in Atlanta. But I have to say, if I had to pick one, MailerLite is going to be my preference there. All right, and then from there, you want to create some automation sequences. So when someone signs up for your email list, you don't want them to just get their opt-in freebie and then never hear from you again, right? When someone signs up for your freebie, that's when they're gonna be the most engaged and the most excited, okay? So you wanna probably send them, again, like you're not gonna do this forever, but right in the beginning, you probably wanna send them 2 or 3 emails, maybe even 4 emails in that first week. It really just depends on what you're trying to do and how, what you feel comfortable with and how good your content is. If it's a free email course, then you can send them 1 email per day for like 5 days. And that's like a really good way to do that. It sets up the expectation, and then people remember who you are because they've gotten 5 emails from you, and your name and your content and what you're about has been reinforced right there in the beginning when they're still engaged and excited, okay? But from there, you want to kind of create your automation sequence where you're going to say, okay, someone signed up for my opt-in freebie and I'm sending them 2 or 3 emails this week, but then the next week I'm gonna already have this email pre-planned, pre-written, everything is saved as a template, and it's going to automatically send them an email 1 week from now. And then it's gonna send them another email automatically 1 week from now. And that continues to happen, so you can really create a lot of work in the beginning. I mean, you'll have to create like several emails, of course, and kind of schedule it out depending on how many emails you have, but it's really a great thing that you can build over time, especially if you have really great pieces of content that you want to share with people and that kind of lead up to your paid offers or services. So you want to make sure that they're relevant towards your paid offers and services, because people that are interested and engaged are going to continue opening your emails, right? And then you're going to be able to eventually sell to them. But you want to, it's like you want to take the girl on a few dates before you ask for the for the hand in marriage or for the paid offers. So yeah, and so that's basically going to consist of your evergreen content that's going to continue to be valuable year after year, and these emails are going to continue to be relevant to your audience when they sign up for your freebie, okay? And of course, you can go back in and update them if they're not, but yeah. And then the other thing you can do is, beyond the automation sequences that you've already set up, is that you can also, so then you want to email your list updates, and that can be either new content that you're putting out, such as a video, a blog post, a new podcast episode, whatever it is. Or if you have new products or services coming out, then you can also send like just a random email, not random, but it's not gonna be in the automation sequence, right? Because it's going to be right now. So like if you have a discount going on for Black Friday, obviously you don't wanna put that in your automation sequence because people are signing up for your email list at all different times. You wanna send that in November, like when it's relevant to that season. So that's another type of email that you can send your list. So tip number 7 is, of course, to add value. I know that might seem kind of obvious or kind of like, well, yeah, duh, but like, honestly, like try to really sit with this question and think about like, what problem are you solving for your audience right now? Like, what are their pain points? How can you create content and products to help support them? And creating content is a lot of work, trust me. You have to like really love doing it, I think. But if you're going to maybe offer like a course, or if you have SKILLSHARE classes, a lot of times designers and artists like will have different streams of income because, you know, if you are freelancing, then you might have like a bit of a dry season. So it's nice to have other streams of income that are supporting you. And a lot of artists end up teaching. So SKILLSHARE is a great platform for that. You can also host your own course on your own website. But of course, if you do it that way, even on SKILLSHARE, people still need to be able to know about you and find you. So your freebie is going to get them, you know, their foot in the door. And they're gonna continue to stay engaged if you are creating content every week and you're creating products that help support them. So tip number 8 is to build deeper relationships. So you wanna build deeper relationships kind of for obvious reasons, but if you're just posting on your Instagram feed and you just have like a little emoji in your copy, like that doesn't really help people get to know you, right? Like they don't feel connected to you. They don't feel like they can relate to you necessarily. Like you might have a pretty picture or you might create really beautiful designs, but like people want to go to that deeper level with you now. And I think that that is, people really crave that in the social media world where there is, you know, so much comparison game, and social media can, you know, it has the ability, it's just a medium, right? So like I don't ever try to demonize social media, but it's just a medium, but it has the ability to make you either feel awesome or to make you feel really crappy. And so that happens, of course, on the platform, but I think that when you're able to cultivate that intimacy with your audience, that's just gonna take you to that deeper level, and people wanna buy from people that they know, like, and trust. And so if you're able to go to that deeper level and really build meaningful relationships with people that are following you or subscribe to you, then that's gonna just really help you build loyal customers. So you wanna ask yourself, like, how well do you really know your audience? Are you spending quality time with them, and what does that look like for you? And are you listening to their needs? Like, do they feel like you are approachable? So if people DM you, are you really responsive and friendly, or are you just kind of like giving short answers and like, okay, cool, like, or just hearting it, or just giving an emoji? Like, giving an emoji is fine, but you might want to follow that up with like a meaningful response. Otherwise, people are just going to be like, I tried, like, I don't know, like I couldn't connect with this person. Okay, and so tip number 9 is going to be just continue feeding the ecosystem, which means that you're going to want to continue creating content and continue promoting your content. So you want to create new, well-researched content every single week. And that could be in the form of going on Instagram Live, it could be going on Facebook Live, it could be a YouTube video, it could be a blog post, it could be new pins on Pinterest that, you know, direct back to an offer on your website. It could be so many different things. But once you've created that content, you definitely want to promote it, because it's not going to perform well if people don't know about it, right? So you need to promote it as much as you can. And this has kind of been hard for me because I don't want to look like I'm selling. I don't want to turn people off. But honestly, like, that's probably just because I've never really worked in sales, right? Like, if I worked with a salesperson, they would say, Lauren, that's crazy. And like, salespeople do not feel like they're bugging you when they follow up. They probably just assume, oh, well, that person was probably just busy, like, let me follow up with them again. Like, they really kind of have that positive mentality instead of being like, oh, like, people hate me, and like, don't assume that. Like, just assume that people are busy and that you just need to follow up. You need to tell them one more time. And they're gonna want the thing that you're giving away that's so valuable. So you definitely want to continue promoting the content. Just try to stay consistent as well. This is going to be one of the hardest things because we do get really busy, right? We have, especially as designers, like creating content feels like a full-time job. It is kind of a full-time job. And on top of that, like we need to be doing our actual job, which is designing, working on freelance projects, working on new collections for licensing, whatever it is that you're doing. So you kind of have two full-time jobs when you are trying to grow online, when you want to develop an audience, but it's what I'm doing right now. I don't think every designer needs to do it, by the way. I don't think every designer needs to necessarily like try to grow an email list unless you want to sell passive income products. And in that case, I do think it is very important because you want to be able to email your audience. You want to be able to tell people when you have a new paid offer that they can go buy from either your website or Creative Market or whatever it is. If you are putting out a class on Skillshare, if you're promoting a course. So you just have to decide what's right for you. You certainly don't have to have an email list to be a designer, but you are gonna have to find clients somehow. It does not have to be through creating content. You could be just connecting with people on LinkedIn or throughout your network and getting jobs that way. So again, you don't have to do this. I don't wanna make people feel like you have to do this. But again, like I said, like the products that are gonna be passive income products, you probably do wanna try to grow online. And so one of the things that helps me with all of this, because it is a lot of work and it is hard, and so I try to schedule everything and I try to repurpose as much as I can. So I use Later to schedule my Instagram posts. When I want to post on Facebook or LinkedIn, I go back to my Instagram posts and I see what I posted, and then I just repurpose that same design, that same image. I just don't do it all on the same day, because if you think about it, like people are only going to really be able to see a fraction of what you're posting. And so unless you're posting like the same thing the same day, 5 different places, then like people might get a little bit burned out if they're kind of hopping around from one platform to another. But if you post one design on Instagram this month, and then next month you post it on LinkedIn, and then the next month you post it on Facebook, and then once you kind of build up a library of designs or photos or whatever it is, then you can really kind of space it out and it's kind of just like a puzzle, and you just like plan out your calendar and you can really say the same thing that you said on Instagram, on Facebook, or on LinkedIn. Like you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and you don't have to like make it harder for yourself. Like you should try to find ways to make it as easy for yourself as possible. And when I create a YouTube video, I then make a blog post out of that. And then I pin it to Pinterest. So that's a pin that I can add my own pin. I'm not just pinning other people's stuff. And so I just kind of have created a system for myself. So I recommend you try to create a system for yourself as well. Try to repurpose as many things as you can and just schedule everything out. The more you schedule out, the easier it's going to be for you. And then my last tip is just to be patient with the promotions, because it's hard. And it does take a while to grow online. I've been independent since February of 2019, and I'm still nowhere close to where I want to be. My goals in 2020 are that I want to kind of have my first 10K months, whether it is I want to grow to 10,000 YouTube subscribers, I want to have 10,000 followers on Instagram. Of course, obviously I want 10K a month in revenue as well. And so I don't know if it's going to happen, guys. Like, I'm just being honest with you guys, but these are my goals. I'm trying to break them down into bits, and so I can make it happen. But yeah, these are my goals. And so yeah, just try to be patient. Don't beat yourself up if it's not moving as fast as you want it to. Sometimes when it seems like someone just blew up and exploded overnight online, and all of a sudden it seems like this person is famous and you've never heard of them before, usually they've been really grinding for a few years before they blew up online. And so we just don't really see that because we had never heard of them before and we haven't seen them. But once the engine starts cranking, like in the diagram I showed, then it really starts feeding everything else. Everything kind of feeds off of each other. And so, yeah, just try to be patient. And so one of the things Jen was asking was, what has been the hardest part for me about trying to build an email list? So I want to answer that more personally from just my own personal experience. And so the hardest part has just really been kind of figuring out in the beginning what type of opt-in converted the best for me and for what I was trying to do. So when you're first creating freebies, you know, I created different PDFs, I created a few checklists, and I was almost creating a new freebie for every piece of content that I put out, which was ridiculous, right? Because that's just like 10xing the amount of work that you need to do. But I don't totally knock it, because you do need to create different freebies in the beginning to kind of see what people like what people are going to be interested in. And so if I had one freebie that was promoted on one blog post, of course, that's not going to get a lot of eyeballs. So it didn't do as well as I wanted it to. It also probably wasn't the most valuable freebie. When you think about what you're going to offer for free, generally it needs to be so good that people are like, well, hell yeah, I'll give you my email address for that, because normally I'd have to pay $50 for that, or whatever it is. You want to make sure that your freebie is so valuable that you would normally charge for it, honestly. And that kind of sucks. That it's kind of hard, but that's going to be the way that you invest in the future of your business, right? So sometimes you have to sacrifice up front in order to kind of play the long game. And that's what I chose to do. So that's why my 2020 trend guide is probably, I'm going to charge for it next year, but I'm giving it away for free this year, like I mentioned. And so it ended up being like my trend guide that was super valuable, that people wanted, and it converted really well. So that's why I did it again this year. I did it last year as well. I DM'd a lot of people and told them about the trend guide. People loved it. People were excited about it. I had many people email me back and reply and say, thank you so much for this trend guide. I would happily pay for it. And so that was really awesome to hear. But if I didn't put it out there in the first place as a freebie, like why would anyone kind of take that risk of buying my trend guide? Because they didn't know, they've never seen my trend guide before. But now I have like loyal fans, I guess. I don't know if you call it fans or subscribers or whatever it is, but now that they've gotten my freebie, my free trend guide for 2 years, then they're going to be more than willing to pay for it next year, because they know how awesome it is, they know how it's helped them, and they want it. And so, yeah, it's sometimes about playing that long game. The second hardest part was probably just figuring out how to get traffic to my website. And even to date, like my website doesn't have a ton of traffic. Like my goal is to have at least 300 unique visitors, website visitors per day. Okay, and so I'm not there yet, but I am continuing to create content, create blog posts, create offers. My link in bio on my Instagram is actually a page on my website. And so that's another way to increase traffic to your website. So there's a lot of different things that you can do, but just going back to paying attention to that Google SEO, making sure that you have the best content out there, that you're going deep with people, and that, you know, your website is easy to navigate, it's easy to understand. There's a quote that says, a confused mind always says no. And so you just want to also have that clarity to your website, which I don't know if I've been very good about that either, but I'm trying. So it's sometimes hard to kind of be objective when it's your baby. And so sometimes you need maybe a friend or a partner to kind of look at it for you and be like, well, you know, and just be honest with you and give you like constructive feedback. And so another hard thing has kind of been just getting in a rhythm of creating content on a consistent basis. So when I first started out, I was horrible in video, horrible. I'm way more comfortable now, but when I first started out, it was pretty bad. I go back and look and I'm like, oh my God, I was so stiff, and like I thought I was doing okay. Thankfully I didn't like think I was super terrible, because I maybe would have never made another video again. But it's just practice. And I also find that the more I create videos and the more I do it, it also becomes easier and it becomes faster, right? So in the beginning, it was such a struggle for me to even put out one video per month on my YouTube channel. So of course I didn't grow very fast, you know, in the beginning, because one video a month isn't very much. Most people recommend that you do at least one video per week, if not 2 videos per week. I am now at the point where I feel like I can create 1 video per week and I'll repurpose this Facebook Live and put it on my YouTube channel as well. And so that's another thing you can do. If you're going live on Facebook, repurpose that content, like make sure that you're recording it in another platform. I use Zoom, but you can research it and kind of figure out what works best for you. But yeah, you can then download the video, put it somewhere else, put it on YouTube, put it in a blog post, whatever you want to do. You can even have an opt-in email if you're only putting it on your website and say, hey, if you want to see my replays, you got to put your email in. And so that's another way to get people on your email list. But just getting in that rhythm of creating consistent content every single week and not feeling totally overwhelmed and totally burned out by that. It took me a little while, but now that I'm way more comfortable doing videos and I enjoy the editing process and I'm more excited to make videos and less nervous, it takes less out of me to do it. And so I'm able to just create more. So another hard thing for me was kind of niching down and really getting specific about who I wanted to attract. So I think my very first webinar that I did was about branding, and I don't do that. I don't create brands for people. That's never been a strong suit for me. I'm not a graphic designer. I didn't like graphic design. And so why on earth did I do a webinar on how to have a brand? I have no idea why I did that. I just didn't really have any ideas. And so I don't know. I thought I probably saw some things on Pinterest on branding, and I thought, oh, I can talk about that. But it has nothing to do with the services I'm giving. It has nothing to do with the products that I'm selling or anything like that. And so the other thing that I really had to kind of work on or the hardest part was getting comfortable on video. I totally sucked in the beginning, but with practice and just doing it over and over again, I really was able to now get more comfortable on video. I'm not as nervous, and that just really helps. It takes less out of me when I am creating videos, so therefore I'm able to create more. All right, guys, that's pretty much it. Definitely leave me a question or a comment below if you have any questions or just want to say hi. I always love hearing from you guys. And if you're interested in getting the Ultimate 2020 Trend Guide, it is still available. So be sure to check the description below for a link. And if you're interested in joining our Facebook group, it is called the Design Tribe. It's at facebook.com/groups/Design Tribe Lauren Leslie, and you can interact with me on live video there. You can also check out the podcast, The Design Tribe. It's on iTunes or Spotify. And make sure to click the little notification bell to get notified every time I come out with a new video. And make sure to subscribe and like this video if you found it valuable. Guys, thanks so much for listening. I will see you in the next video.